Please welcome to our virtual stage, musically speaking host, Long Beach Symphony Music Director Eckart Preu, and longtime friend of the Symphony, Pepe Romero.
Thank you, Kelly, and welcome everybody. It is so great to be here today with one of the world's leading masters of classical and flamenco guitar, Pepe Romero. Welcome, Pepe.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, Pepe was born in Spain and is the son of guitarist and composer Celedonio Romero, who was also his only guitar teacher. And together with his father and brothers, who were also guitar players, Pepe performed as part of the legendary Romero Guitar Quartet. And as a soloist, Pepe has performed around the globe with the world's great orchestras and has recorded over 60 albums, including 20 concertos with the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields and 30 albums with the Romero Quartet. And Pepe has played for US presidents and kings and even a pope, and is an avid guitar teacher as well, most notably here at USC. And we've performed together twice. Once he was a soloist here at Long Beach Symphony back in 2018, and then a year later we performed in Cincinnati with the Cincinnati Chamber Orchestra. And Pepe, we look forward to your return to Long Beach in the 2021-2022 season. So with that, Pepe, thank you so much for joining us today. And let me just start out right with a couple of childhood memory questions. You grew up in a family of incredible musicians. Your father was a famous guitar player and composer, and your brothers played the guitar. I'm wondering what that was like in your childhood. I have a brother who is a conductor, and two conductors in one family. It was already trouble. Was there some sort of sibling rivalry going on between you brothers, and how was that with four guitarists in a household?
I never felt rivalry with any of them, because, well, I think that was my father's and my mother's doing, where they were very careful to even out the compliments and yes, and bring out the strong points of each of us. So I was always very grateful for the joy that I received listening to my brothers playing and to my father playing, and really loved the experience of making music myself. Yeah. It was in my house, the guitar was like another member of the family. The guitars, the instruments themselves kind of had a life-like feeling, and we just enjoy very much making the guitar a part of our experience. I grew up in a very, very poor economical situation because of, it was in Spain, it was during the height of Franco's regime, and my father had been against Franco and was all his life. So his life was not necessarily made easy at all. But we did enjoy a group of incredible friends that were all the liberal thinkers, the artists, the painters, the writers, the poets, the other musicians. And so music was always a very important part that made a difficult life a very beautiful experience.
And speaking of difficult lives, what you do, and I think when you know what you're doing, it looks so easy, and it's easy to forget how much work it actually is to become a master of anything, actually. As a growing musician, what was like the biggest struggle in your life?
The biggest struggle, I think, was for me when I had other things to do that interfere with my playing the guitar. Although I enjoyed very much many of the subjects in school, and I always enjoyed, my hobby was always painting, and I loved reading, but my passion has always been to play the guitar. And when you said earlier that many people don't realize how much work it is to get something, I thought, for me, actually, is how much pleasure it gave me to bring a piece from being a complete stranger to meet the piece, to get to know it, to become friends, to become one with it, and eventually get it to the point where you feel you can share it and bring that joy to other people. You know, because you are the same.
I'm the opposite. I'm struggling with pieces.
No, you know.
I'm fighting them. No, I mean, it is such an interesting philosophy, though, because, you know, I mean, there's all these technical difficulties. There's like fingerings that you have to think of, and intonation. You're particular guitar players. I mean, you always struggle with intonation and with all these different sounds, and you always welcome those challenges.
I do. I enjoy them.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a part of me that is a masochist. No, I enjoy the challenges. I enjoy, because I've always believed that with every challenge, there is a solution to it.
Yeah.
And so I'm very lucky. I have really enjoyed my life so far.
Yeah. And so, I mean, let me follow up with one of the most feared questions for any musician, right? Are you ready? So it's like, how often and how long do you practice?
I practice as much as as time allows. There is a certain amount of time that is taken away by everyday duties.
Right.
But my work, I try to put in about 6 hours every day.
6 hours every day?
6 hours every day.
Wow.
And I begin always on a perfect day. I start with warming up, getting to know the guitar all over again, every day. Every day, start with scales, exercises, arpeggios. Feel how it responds in my arms underneath, how the strings feel. Play scales to make them legato, to make them beautiful, not just to make them fast, but to make them beautiful. And I like to do that for a good hour and a half, where I am doing not only scales and arpeggios and gymnastics, but also etudes, playing different etudes and challenges, different parts of the technique. And then I go into what I have to prepare for my upcoming concerts or recordings.
Wow.
And I do a couple of hours of that.
Every day?
Every day. A couple of hours of the new things that I have to prepare. Yeah. And then I like to take a break, have my lunch, my siesta, And the evening, I just play for fun pieces that, and whatever I feel like listening to it too on the guitar, I play it.
And you play for yourself? You don't need an audience? Like you play for your wife, or you play for yourself? You play for your neighbors, or just at home?
I love an audience. I love to connect with an audience. And as a matter of fact, I always have an invisible audience with me, because I believe that when we make music, we are touching something that we don't even see. That music doesn't ever just you play a note and it's forgotten. Whatever we play better be filled with the message of love, because it goes on forever. It reaches to the outer parts of, it stays in the creation forever, because we are making subtle changes in the vibrations, and everything is vibration. So music for me, I'm never just alone, but I enjoy it by myself very much. But for example, when I'm recording, I always envision the other person on the other end listening to it, and I'm playing for that person. I think the connection for us musicians is very important with the public.
Right. So when you perform, do you have a certain pre-concert ritual, something that you have to do to kind of feel well? You know, do you have a lucky shirt? You know, like Gunther Schuller had a lucky shirt, or I have a friend who needs to eat ramen before concert, or I have to take a nap. Do you have like a certain process that you go through before a live performance?
I like to take a nap. I definitely, on the day of the concert, if I have a perfect day, sometimes you get out of an airplane and you go directly to the concert hall and play. But on a perfect day, I like to have my ritual where I practice some exercises, some scales, some a more reduced thing. I like to play through whatever I'm going to play that evening, play through it at a slow tempo.
Yeah.
To enjoy the feeling of it. And then I put the guitar away, and I like to have my lunch, take a nap. When I wake up, I get ready, I take my shower, drink an espresso, and go. And I like to be for about an hour ahead of time and do some just playing pieces unrelated to what I'm going to play. Just to get the feeling, that feeling of being relaxed, and that music flows out of you. And I don't like to play too much what I'm going to perform, because then your own ego and your own nerves can come in.
That's kind of an interesting question. You know, the nerves that we are fighting with all our lives as performers. Do you still get nervous, or what kind of energy are you in? Like right before going out on stage? I think it's always worse like before you go out. Once you're out there, it's usually fine. But it's like, do you get nervous?
Yes, of course.
How nervous?
You know, that I think that's very difficult, because I don't know if I get more nervous than you do or not. but I get nervous just it's part nerves, but it's part anticipation. Is the realization that I'm going to do something that I love, and I know that I can do it really well, and I know I can mess it up really well too. So there's always an element of chance, but the odds are in my favor.
Right. Yeah. That's always good. That's always good. Yeah.
I've played it well many more times than I've messed it up. So, but then there is a feeling when I walk into the stage where really the result is not what I'm into. What I'm into is the experience, is the process. And then I am not, by the time I walk out, by the time I'm backstage and I'm sitting backstage and I'm listening to you and looking at you conducting, and I know that your piece is coming to an end and in a few minutes, and I'm checking very quietly the tuning of the guitar, I am not nervous at all, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. I'm completely enjoying the magic of that moment, which is one of the most beautiful experiences a person can have. But before, yes.
It's always before. I find it like, and nobody really can feel, or understand the feeling like being on a stage in front of 2,000 people with 100 more or 50 more in the back or so. It's a very high degree of energy, which kind of makes you buzz, and if it's uncontrolled, then you start shaking, and then it gets out of control. Right?
That's right. That's right. But it's an unexplainable thing, and I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
I miss it. This year, I really miss it.
I have one last question before we open it up for Q&A. What is your favorite Spanish beverage?
Red wine.
Really? I was like hoping for sangria or something like that. No.
No, well, I like sangria, but I like a good glass of either Ribera del Duero or Rioja, a good Spanish wine I love.
Okay, awesome.
Before we finish, I have one more thing to share with you. This Saturday, Carissa is going to Manolo Sanlúcar's house, and she's picking up the complete score.
Awesome. Awesome. And
so
we should tell everybody that Manolo Sanlúcar is a Spanish flamenco guitarist and composer, a friend of Pepe's, and I think almost neighbor in Granada.
Yes.
And we've been kind of struggling getting a hold of the music that we want to perform together next time we get together in Long Beach. So that's very exciting.
Yes.
Carissa is your wife, of course. Yeah. So, okay, awesome. That is very, very good news. And so let's open up this conversation, and to kind of help us manage all these questions coming in. Please welcome back Kelly Lucera.
Thank you, and thank you both for allowing us to be part of such an interesting conversation. I'm still wowed by 6 hours of practice a day, including an hour and a half of scales. That's probably why you are, a world famous classical guitarist, no doubt. But I have a couple of questions that have come in. Maria would like to know, she knows you're such a wonderful advocate for education. What is the most important lesson you are trying to convey when working with aspiring young musicians?
To keep the passion for the music alive. We have, as musicians, we have so many things that are very big temptations to lure us away from the truth of the relationship between the music and yourself, and the instrument you play and yourself. There's the temptation of trying to be virtuosic for showing what you can do, rather than becoming a virtuoso so you can play difficult music beautifully. And then comes the building of a career. Building of a career is a very important thing if you're going to make it your job to play concerts. But how you go about it can take you also away from the real path of music and the way that you connect spiritually and intellectually with music. So keeping that passion alive, that is what is going to keep the individuality. And as a musician, we must be very truthful to ourselves. And then we sound like only that person sounds. And you conduct only the way this person conducts. Because when we are making music, we are sharing the deepest part of our spirit with the public. And anything that hides that is an interference. So that's, keep your passion alive.
It's a wonderful lesson. Eckart, I have a question for you from Sherry. Sherry would like to know, is conducting a guitar concerto different in any way from conducting a concerto from a standard instrument of the orchestra, violin, viola, cello? Is there any difference?
Well, I think, the general idea that I have about accompanying a concerto is to always anticipate what the guest artist is going to do next. That is the main thing. So basically the soloist is the driver, and I just facilitate to be as supportive as I possibly can. It is a little bit different because orchestras are usually a little bit smaller, so it's a much more intimate experience in the first place, which then allows you as a conductor to step back even further if necessary, and really allow chamber music to happen, because musicians are very, very eager to listen to what the soloist is doing. And that's of course much, much easier when there's a smaller orchestra and not like, a Brahms-sized orchestra where everybody just plays juice. And so I think, but the other challenge with guitar is that it's bing, and it's right there, so that there's no kind of getting into a chord, which sometimes is, particularly romantic music, beautiful. But with guitar music, you can't, you have to kind of manage the precision of the attack and allow the music to breathe at the same time. And that is kind of, but I mean, performing with Pepe is always a pleasure, because he's so musical. You know exactly what is going to happen. Everything is so it has just a beautiful flow to it, and so there's people who make it easy for you as a conductor, and there's people who make it difficult for you. And Pepe is definitely one who makes it easy.
I have a question from our good friend Joanne. She thanks you for a fascinating discussion. She asks, is there a particular musical artist or type of music you like to listen to that would surprise us, like a guilty pleasure? For both of you.
That question is for Eckart or for me?
Both.
For you.
For both. I love music from like Cuban music. Of course, I love flamenco music, but I like Cuban music and some of the old ones. So if you want to listen to a particular singer, put Antonio Machín. Antonio Machín was from the 40s, and he wanted to be an Italian opera tenor, but he became a legend of the Cuban pop music. And of course, I love compay segundo. But I love all kinds of folk music and music from different parts of the world.
Interesting. Eckart, do you have a guilty pleasure?
There's nothing guilty about, well, I mean, I feel a little bit guilty to say that, you know, I rarely listen to music in my free time, you know, so that's why I like, for instance, the beach or the desert or the mountains, because there's just like no noise is like perfect for me. What I found to enjoy a lot is like Russian Orthodox chants, this Bulgarian folk music. I mean, this very straight tone, but there's no vibrato whatsoever, and it's almost this, you know. But this is very, very raw in many ways. It's a cultivated rawness that I really enjoy, and I love like these deep basses of like the Russian Orthodox chant or so.
Interesting. Are there other genre of world music, Pepe, that you incorporate when you're composing or performing, or that resonate with you prior to performance?
Oh, well, I play music from so many different composers and of so many different parts of the world, and they have. If I'm playing Merz, of course, Merz was very Hungarian, and so there's a lot of Hungarian music. If you play Villalobos, you get a lot of Brazilian music. So, but for me, I am a little bit, well, very much also like Eckart said. For me, I have to spend part of the day without anything, with silence. Because after all, music comes from silence and goes back into silence. And the most important thing that musicians have to cultivate is that inner silence upon which music lies and depends on that silence. So when I'm listening, when I'm not playing, I'm listening to, most of the time, I love to listen to other classical, I love voice, I love operas, I love symphonies, I love chamber music, I love art songs. So I spend as much time as I can listening to things like that. I love to listen to Schubert songs, and I love to listen to a Brahms symphony, and all of it. And then, of course, I enjoy very much listening to flamenco. But my time is divided between the music I'm making, listening to others, and then cultivating silence.
Mm-hmm. All right, I have one last question for you both. Are there composers yet to be performed, pieces yet to be played? What is on your bucket list?
On my bucket list, my bucket list is very ambitious. And I make sure that I have a bucket list that to fulfill it, I have to be around until I'm 100. But my immediate bucket list is the piece that Eckart and I were talking about. And this is a piece by a wonderful composer. He's a flamenco player, but his composition is very much a Spanish romantic composer, nationalistic and very romantic in his nature. And this was a piece that he began composing many, many years ago, while he and my family and I were having dinner in Madrid. And I'm talking maybe 40 years ago or more. And I've always wanted to play it. but never happened. And then Eckart invited me to do it. And we had it programmed, and we never could get the music in time for the performance. So we are hoping that for our next concert together, we can do it.
Sounds like a great plan to me. Eckart?
I'll go with that bucket too, absolutely. And I'll put something else into that bucket because, you know, during the pandemic, I've rediscovered a composer that I've always kind of loved, that I kind of grew very close to during my childhood when I was like a troubled growing teenager, and that's the music by Anton Bruckner. Which I love very much, and I've done a couple of his symphonies, but at some point I want to do all of them. Well, yeah, besides the number 0, he wrote the 0, which I'm not keen off, but all the others I want to do once before I die. There we go.
Wonderful. It's time to wrap up. Thank you both so much. And this was our inaugural musical speaking program. Pepe, you are the perfect guest to launch this great new initiative. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have 16 weeks of interesting programs, and I couldn't imagine a better guest for our first program. So thank you so much.